25 million refugees worldwide.
There's a huge humanitarian crisis throughout the world still going on with refugees from Syria, from Sub-Saharan Africa to come to Europe from elsewhere.
The genetics of the killings was unbelievable. I fled one hell in Syria and I ended up in another hell.
I have been paying attention to refugees' mental health problems since the Syrian conflict in 2011. What really turned me into an activist for refugee mental health issues was becoming friends with a refugee from Palestine, who I met in the UCL for Refugee Education campaigning workshop. I became aware that he suffered from a reoccurrence of post-traumatic stress disorder. He didn't make it through his exams and had to repeat the year. I looked up the conditions and was surprised to find that there isn't much information describing what mental health problems refugees actually go through. Luckily, a joint study carried out by UCL Psychiatry Department and the Karolinska Institute in Sweden caught my attention. It indicated that refugees face an increased risk of schizophrenia and other non-affective psychotic disorders compared to non-refugee migrants. Burning with curiosity to find out more about this conclusion, I have decided to meet the co-author of this paper.
My work is in psychiatric epidemiology, so I'm really interested in the population level causes of schizophrenia and other psychotic disorders. So we know that migrant groups, as well as their children, have higher rates of psychotic disorder. One possible reason is that you can experience a lot of adverse life events in the country that you come from, which might make you more at risk of developing psychosis. So we were really interested to see whether refugees who might have experienced more of these adverse life events would have an increased risk of psychosis compared to other groups of migrants. And we found that refugees had about 2.5 times higher risk than Swedish-born, but their risk was also 60% higher than for migrants. If we understand a bit more about the potential causes, we can start to think about how we can prevent that, and that might be through broad causes, say reducing poverty, but it can also be used for like public health and policy.
Do you think people are literate about mental health? Do you think they could know more and help more?
When you can integrate migrants and refugees into society in the right way, they can make enormous contributions to society in terms of employment and so on. So it's really important that if people are experiencing, for example, psychotic symptoms at an early period, they get treatment for those as much as possible. So one thing we can probably do to improve people's long-term outcomes is to make refugee groups and other vulnerable groups aware of the mental health services which are available within the country that they're moving to.
What do you think is the main problem for refugees coming into this country?
Is it losing your family?
Besides from just moving your family, it's like a complete change of lifestyle.
Have you ever thought about mental health being a major problem?
I haven't personally considered it yet.
No, it's not the first thing that comes to mind.
After having spoken to members of the general public, it appears imperative to take some action to raise awareness of the refugee mental health crisis. Having a degree in psychology, I'm fortunate enough to have some background knowledge on this topic. I was advised by my personal tutor to speak with Professor Taran to gain a further insight into this issue.
Dear Fenya, we have entered into a busy period of the year, and unfortunately, I may not have time to assist you with this inquiry. Kind regards, Dr. Taran Chaudhry.
Left with a sense of disappointment, I went to the St. Pancras Refugee Centre with an intention to search for expertise. However, housing and employment for refugees seem to be their primary concerns, while mental health issues are taken less seriously. After much searching, I came across Mind, which is a charity that has been supporting those with mental health issues since 1946. They're also one of the very few support agencies that provide help to refugees. Because of this, they appear to be the ideal candidates to talk to regarding this complex issue.
Deputy Chief Executive Officer of Wandsworth and Westminster Mind. So in this Mind, we provide talking therapies, which is counselling on an individual and a group basis. When we're working with people who've got more severe mental health problems, we usually liaise with their care coordinators. so they'll have somebody supporting them in the community. You always want to talk to people in the language they feel most comfortable with. Somebody some time ago actually who approached us for talking therapies because she'd had a really traumatic experience as a refugee. She'd been raped and had a really successful series of sessions with a counsellor. And I think the issue we often come across is that people seeking help aren't necessarily supported holistically. So when we assess people's needs, we're thinking about not just what they've been through, but the psychological impact of what that could do to them. They arrive through whatever means, often have no recourse to public funds, often don't know where to go. So we as an organisation would say we'd want to encourage people to approach us, and if we know what we can help with and what we can't help with, we'll direct people elsewhere if we can't help them.